Welcome to Confluence Conversations, the podcast where we explore the topics that shape our schools, communities, and the world around us. Each episode, we sit down with educators, experts, and changemakers to engage in meaningful dialogue that informs, inspires, and ignites action. Thank you for joining us. Let's dive into today's conversation.
Welcome to Confluence Conversations. We're excited to kick off our first episode with conversations about important topics. Educator for gun safety. Today, we'll explore the role of educators in promoting gun safety, discussing the challenges they face, and highlight steps that can be taken to create a safer learning environments. I'm your host, Dr. Leslie Muhammad, Director of Student Services and Parent Involvement. Joining me today as well is one of our high educators and a very important person in this work, Dr. Wourman. Dr. Wourman?
Hi, good afternoon. I'm Dr. Wourman. I'm the lead college and career counselor for Confluence Preparatory Academy. Good to be here.
Hello, my name is Jahlil Latchison. I am a senior at Confluence Preparatory Academy.
Hello, my name is Jayvonte Hughes. I'm a junior at Confluence Preparatory Academy.
To start off, can you tell us what Educators for Gun Safety is and what its core mission is? Like, what is the really important part of this initiative that has started at Confluence Academies?
So the really important part of this mission is to make sure that our students and our educators work collaboratively to make sure that the city of St. Louis finds ways to be a more safer and inclusive environment for all of our scholars. So it starts at Confluence Academies, but we definitely wanted to branch out to other districts so we can all get on the same page as far as like what safety really looks like when it comes to firearms in the city.
Very good. As student ambassadors for gun safety and educators, what do you think is the main initiative coming from a student's perspective?
Okay, coming from a student perspective, I feel like as far as adults, they always downplay how stuff can happen or automatically think that it's happening because of a certain reason. But because they're leaning on us, we can now find other reasons because we think like them, we're living with them, we know how they act. So,
Very good. What do you think?
I think gun violence has been a problem in St. Louis for some time now. And in my opinion, the legislators in charge are really focused on trying to push laws to fix it, when I think we should focus on educating our young people like on the importance of it, because I think that's where it starts. It starts as really as young as middle school or before it now.
mhm.
So really engaging the students and engaging the community and finding answers and working through that as well as with our legislators.
Yes.
Very good. Okay.
Yes,
Well,
ma'am.
I really want to know if you could share any personal experiences that you all have that's relevant to this initiative and how you think those personal experiences has added to really your mission in being in this and wanting to be a part of this work in St. Louis City.
Okay, so I've had a friend at CVPA, and I've also had another friend. He's not here. We have one. His name is Anthony. He was at the CVPA shooting when all of that happened. And then I had a friend named Richard. He's gone now. When that was happening, I felt like I probably could have gave him that extra, hey, stay away from these guys, because that's the real reason he was killed. He was in the wrong place, wrong time. I told him that wasn't the right people to be around. So, yeah.
I'm very sorry to hear that. And I think that's one of the good things about having those experiences. You're able to really relate to what changes need to be made. And part of that is having maybe even some community involvement so that those persons who are on that level don't see the need to be on that level anymore. What about you? Have you had any experiences like that you think has really pushed your involvement in this work?
For me, a few years ago, my older cousin was shot and killed in a car with her boyfriend. It was another wrong place, wrong time situation. It was a lot of gang violence in that area. And the people that shot them mistook their car for someone else's. So they just shot up the car. And that really opened my eyes to to be a victim of gun violence. You don't have to necessarily be involved in it or like be a person that does things with guns. It happens so often that you can just be minding your business, doing something, and still become a victim to it. I think that really opened my eyes and it really pushed me to want to do this.
Likewise. Very, very understandable. I too have had relatives as well as myself that have been in crossfires. And hearing about my mother being in a crossfire was something at that time that I said on this particular block, like we really have to do something different. And that block has been cleaned up because the community galvanized. They worked together to make some changes, to provide some things for the children to get involved in so that they were not getting involved with people who really didn't have any concern or care about someone's life. Dr. Wourman, did you want to say anything on that?
Yeah, I think from the educator standpoint, I became a counselor in 2016. That was my first time as new to the field. And no one prepared me for some of the community violence that I had to face as an educator. They always say like, oh, you have graduation, you have prom, and you have eighth grade promotion. But when I experienced going to 5 funerals in one summer for students under the age of 15, and they were my scholars, that was really heavy. And to know that it was more community violence and that the safest place for them, for those students, was school, saying goodbye in the summertime for students to, enjoy their summer break, to go swimming and, whatever else, family vacations, and to know that like your heart drops a little bit because you may not see one of your students come August because of community violence. That's one of the things that kind of like tugged on my heart a little bit when it came to Educator for Gun Safety, because it starts in the community, and we need to make sure that our community is aware how it directly impacts our ability to teach our scholars.
Well, I think it was a really good thing at the very beginning to know that there were more than one community partners coming along, just knowing that there were people who were just, as we say, in the wrong place at the wrong time, but having those prominent people to come in and step in and to make some differences within the community based on who they were and who they knew is why we're so far in the work that we are today. So I really, really appreciate you taking the time to kind of think through from a student's perspective what that looks like. So I'm going to ask you this question. What do you think are some of the biggest concerns in your communities and our communities for students when it deals with gun safety?
I would say the biggest concern right now, in my opinion, is how early it starts and how easily accessible guns are. For example, as a high school student, I see other high school males, including freshmen, new high schoolers. You go to their Instagram and they got videos with guns, just showing it, or people talking about, oh yeah, so and so FaceTime me, showing me his gun, like stuff like that. I don't think they realize how serious it is and how quickly a life can be taken by just owning one. So I think that's problem how early it starts, and I think one of our main goals is how we can educate young people and set them on a path that differs from that whole lifestyle.
Very good. Would you like to
Okay.
add anything to that?
To piggyback off of what he said, yes, it starts off very, very early. Another thing besides them, thinking it's a joke just to have it, some people actually depend on that because they don't really have a lot of people to feel protection. So they only lean towards that as, oh, I got a strap, I'm protected. So, yeah.
And I look forward to getting into more like discussions with other students or other people in the community in that age bracket or the ages that we're talking about to really feel why they feel the necessity to have a weapon, how they're even accessing weapons, such as the weapons that you're seeing they're brandishing. And a lot of times it's really because it's become a norm. It's okay to do it, so nobody's correcting you. And it's a status symbol for some others too. So Dr. Wourman, how would you say that it affects educators when it comes to gun safety and awareness?
So, from the educator perspective on how that directly impacts us, it's hard to it's kind of hard to like get those students to understand that it's a concern. Like you may have it on social media because they do glamorize it, or they're like, oh, well, my friend has it, and but they feel like, well, I'm not doing it in school, so why does it bother you, or why does it concern you? Or and we don't have really any jurisdiction on what happens past 315. But when that happens past whatever happens past 315, whether they post it, whether they actually shoot the firearm, or if somebody actually accidentally gets killed or harmed, that trickles back into the school system. So as far as like the ecosystem of how it all works, it all comes back to the school. So the school should have some I think, a little bit more influence on what's the next steps, because it all lands on our doorstep. We deal with these students every day who come from some level of trauma due to gun violence. We have to teach these students. They have to learn how to read, write, do math, all of these things, be scholars, athletes. But when something like that happens in your community, it directly impacts their ability to learn. And we are the first line of defense for those students. We have to make sure that we're waking up and we're prepared. We have to debrief. We have to do all these things to be proactive to support these students. And we need a say-so on how guns are actually being accessed in the city, because it directly impacts our work and the work that we're trying to do in the life-changing work for all of our students.
Yes, it does. And I just wanted to add something to what you were just sharing. I think that you mentioned it earlier as far as there's a taboo about discussing it in schools, period. Even with educators discussing it with their students, they get very antsy. They feel like they're not educated enough to even do so. I can remember when we began to do the awareness of the curriculum within our schools, and a lot of discussion was just basically, I'm not the person that should be doing this. It should be the school counselor. When really it affects the whole school community, from the principals all the way down to the janitors, et cetera. When you do have a school that has students that have unfortunately been a victim of it, that I find that it's very interesting that people don't want to talk about the elephant in the room. But if we do more about talking about the elephant in the room and coming up with solutions, as you all have done and talking to some of our state legislators in the past, such as State Representative Butts and Senator Roberts, who was really welcoming conversations and trying to figure out how do we develop this task force that can come up with solutions. What do you all think about that?
To comment on them, I remember talking to them. I really enjoyed talking to them. They were very open to our ideas and offering ideas of their own, like commenting why something would work or why wouldn't it work. That was very educational for me. I learned like the reason why it's so hard to pass the gun violence laws, because you would think like, oh, it's a problem, so they're going to pass it, but really it's not that simple, because the problem isn't as broad as we think. It's more in this specific area. So the other people that are also in charge of passing laws don't see a problem with it in order to pass that law. So the next thing is, okay, until we can pass these laws, what can we do in our community to help fix this problem? And they were very open with that. So our idea we came up with was the task force. And it was a real fun project, honestly. I had fun seeing it come together and giving my ideas on how I think like it should be set up. We talked about that, the task force, the pillars of it, like how it would operate, who would be in charge. And right now, I'm pretty sure it's a bill right now, the task force.
Yes.
And it's in the process of most likely, hopefully, getting passed so we can start it and really start having the authority to
Would you say having the authority to come together to develop true, I would say, answers and solutions to what's going on in the community?
Put answers in play, basically.
I was going earlier, I was going to say about what Dr. Wourman was saying, how I'm very appreciative to Confluence, because with me, what I see, like when I see students involved with gun violence, it's 9 times out of 10 because of something going on at home or in their environment. While, yes, it's true that some students have guns and just like to show it, it's also true that other students don't feel safe in their environment and feel like they need it just in case something happens. And when you put it in that perspective, you can kind of see why they think they need it, because it's not rare that you see a child under the age of 18, 17, even 15 that was shot or involved in something that they had nothing to do with. So next step is helping that child either get out of that environment or giving them a safe space, talking to them, talking to their parents, figuring out what's going on. And I know some schools don't take the time to do all that, but at Confluence, they really notice it. Student grades start dropping, or they start coming to school looking a little bit sadder. Someone reaches out,
Mm-hmm.
For me, I had an issue going on. It wasn't related to gun violence, but it was just a small, like, little issue.
Mm-hmm.
And our dean of students, Dean Miller, was real quick to notice, like, is something going on? Like, you don't look as happy as you usually do. So I'm really appreciative of Confluence, and I think this very good school. That's one of the reasons it's a very good school, because they take the time to pay attention to their students and help us with problems like that. I think if we had more schools like that in this area, and it would help with the problem. It'll help with the roots of the problem.
Yes, like more schools that invest more in the students and what they really think about what's really going on and really listening. So, yeah, I really wanted to ask you, do you feel that students in your age bracket, do you think that they feel that the community supports their safety, or or what things that they're thinking about that could support their safety, where they don't have to think about using guns to keep themselves safe?
I think that the government does have to take more accountability for it, because they focus on the wrong things. Like, just recently, they decided to ban TikTok instead of focusing on actual problems like kids being shot, killed, etc. So I feel like their whole focus, their way of looking at things it's an error. You have to look at things from a higher standpoint, because you are looking over the state. So it doesn't really make sense to focus on small things that you think would supposedly make us better. So, yeah.
So one of the things that really wanted, you started talking about what other students may think or feel that helps them to stay safe in their environment. As an educator, Dr. Wourman, what do you think teachers could do more so now to support their students in feeling safe in schools?
I think the first step to make sure the students feel safer in schools is to listen and be more observant. I think, I understand test scores are important. They are. But when we really want to get down to the social and emotional awareness of our students, sometimes teachers overlook that because they're so worried about the curriculum. You can't start teaching till you know what's going on with those students, because if it's so much noise in the background because of what may have happened at 6 o'clock in the morning or 3 o'clock in the morning, they don't care about the math test at 9 a.m. Like, there's no way they're going to get there, because they need to process what just happened. And it's not just something that lands on counselors or social workers. It is a wraparound full school support initiative. Like, we have to pay attention to the ins and outs of our students. And just like Jayvonte said earlier, you have to notice, like, if something's off with the student. You need to just be aware of your surroundings and actually build relationships with the students in your building. So that way, just by like the twinkle in their eye, that something is off. And it may not be gun violence. It could be something else, but we need to really prioritize SEL, or social emotional learning, and the competencies of that for all of our educators. And that's the way to have a safer school environment, because even if you're not comfortable with addressing it, at least you know the signs, something's off, and you're like, hey, let me just shoot Dr. Wourman a text, or Dr. Muhammad, or something for somebody else to kind of chime in. But just when you see something, say something. Like, we tell our students that all the time, but once 3:15, we just act like our students aren't our students anymore. Being an educator is a 24-hour thing. So just knowing what's going on as far as like even where your students live, the communities that they live in, the families they're around, the other schools that are around them, you just need to be tapped in to what's happening in the city.
Agreed. So what I hear you saying is there needs to be more education given to educators themselves on how to really be in tune with social emotional aspects or concerns of other students, and getting out of their own comfort zone. When we come into this arena in the school system, we know that we're here not just to be educators themselves in a classroom, only teaching science, English, and other subjects. That really core values and things that go on in our communities are important too. So I really look forward to discussions and dealing with policies and preventative measures that we can work together in order to support the task that you all, or the initiative that you all have. And this has been an incredible and insightful discussion. And I want to thank you all. And I really want to tell you thank you for sharing your expertise and your experiences today. And before we wrap up, do you have any final thoughts or any resources you'd like to share with any of our listeners?
I would say another thing that I want to add on as far as gun violence, it's not in the same topic, but it kind of is. As far as topics or things that you learn in school, math, English, etc., I feel like things that we need as far as an adult are not fully all in school. Driver's ed, deeper connection classes, just any type of classes that will actually get you ready for the real world, because life gets very real, especially when you're getting around the age that I am. I'm a senior and I'm realizing life is crazy. it's outrageous. And it's just a lot going on as far as that. So all I would say is, while we're moving with the gun violence and while we're moving with the task force and things of that nature, I want to move with new classes, new beginnings, just like a new environment for us as students, so we could be more prepared for what we have to do.
So something that is really in real time being taught, and not just things that we know we need to know, like history and mathematics and things like that.
Yes, there's some history and some math that we really do not need in the future, and they focus on that instead of what we actually need.
Or more importantly, being able to tie in the curriculum to everyday experiences.
Exactly.
I hear you loud and clear.
Yes.
And can I just add on to what Jal was saying in regards to that? I agree with you wholeheartedly. I think post-COVID, we've learned that the traditional way of teaching scholars is not the way to go. And with that, we need to listen more, talk less when it comes to our students are our customers. At the end of the day, we try to do what we want to do as adults and as educators because we don't want to reinvent the wheel. But innovation is key, I think, when it comes to safer environments and safer schools and more involvement. If our students are more involved with their school community, I think they will be less involved with whatever is going on outside of that. So do more interest surveys, listen to your students, create student leaders, groom your student leaders to be prepared to advocate for themselves, which I think Confluence Academies does a really, really good job of doing that. And really, once you hear them, take that into consideration when you're making these new initiatives, because these programs directly impact them. So on the state level, sometimes they become so far removed of what's going on in the ground level of education that they're making decisions, but they need to come into the buildings and they need to spend a week or a few weeks here in our building and in our communities with our students to see what this really looks like, on why we're requesting what we're requesting. Because if you don't live here or you don't service the students here, you don't see what the needs are. And that's important. They need to see it.
So if you look up a classroom back in 1904 or 1918, et cetera, and you look up a classroom in this one, or if you look up a car and you look up a car in this one, the car back then was way different than the car back then. But when you look at the classroom, it's the exact same format. It's the exact same thing. It's a bunch of people in the classroom and desk just looking at one person teach at the top of the board. So that's the thing that we should look for to change. So, yeah.
I like that aspect. Did you want to add anything in before we end out today?
I'm just really looking forward to where we're going with this, with our gun violence initiative. I'm really looking forward to the changes that we can make and hearing from students how we've helped them with what we choose to do and how we go about it.
Likewise.
Really looking forward to it.
I'm excited about that too. To our listeners, thank you for tuning in to this episode of Confluence Academy's Conversations. If you found today's conversations valuable, please share it with the community and let's continue in this important dialogue. Don't forget to follow us on Facebook and Instagram at Confluence Academies and subscribe. That's right, I said subscribe to stay updated on our future episodes. Until next time, stay informed, stay engaged, and let's work together for a safer tomorrow.